Hello, this is Let's Talk Plateau. We're here once again, but before we go further, I want to commiserate and condole the family of Professor Sonny Tioden, former governor of Plateau State. Our hearts are with you, we condole with you, and we pray that God will continue to give you the strength to bear this loss. All right, so today on Let's Talk Plateau, we have a number of things I want to discuss. Basically, the issue of the festive cultural festivals, and of course the issue of the adjustment market, and of course we're going to touch insecurity a little. However, I think I would like my friends to say hi to you guys. All right, Zwandan and Simon, you're welcome.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure being here.
All right. Okay, let's go straight to the point. Now, Plateau State is a diverse state. It's a state that we have about more than 50 languages, and you know, they are all unique. They are all unique in their own ways. So, we have this distinct cultural practices and festivals and so on and so forth. And especially in period like this, before the full farming season takes place, that's when we used to have them more, and that's awesome. However, I would like to know whether these cultural festivals over the years has really meant something to us as a people. So let me start with my honorable here. Yes.
I mean, culture has been the bedrock of every society. For us, it's a thing that lives with us, it's a thing we are, if you like. So, to an extent, our understanding of our cultural scruples helps us understand who we are in the larger society. And I'm happy that, you know, for us as a people, we take this very seriously. We do not forget where we come from, and we always try to reconnect with our roots at every given opportunity. So for me, I think, you know, it's a good one. We've done pretty well so far, you know, judging by where we're coming from.
Simon, how has this cultural festival been able to preserve and promote unity among us as a people?
Yeah, so far so good. The celebration of culture has been very vital, especially in Plateau State. As you have said earlier, there are so many vast cultural tribes, and each has their own unique identity, unique languages, and unique way of life. And this has helped us. We have been able to manage the fact that we have been able to live within this diversity on the plateau. That's good. That's helped us. This culture has helped us to identify that this Plateau State that God has given to us doesn't belong to only one tribe. So there's need for everybody to come together to celebrate. The celebration of culture also, it has helped us to hold onto our unique identity, transferring this identity from one generation to another generation. It keeps each generation that comes alive, gives them the sense that there's something that needs to be preserved. So celebration of culture, our culture days has really helped us to identify our our diversity in oneness.
All right, so I would say, you know, over time, people who have been involved in most of these cultural festivals, many of them say that they notice that there is a shift, there is a change, that our cultural festivals is now beginning to turn into a political theater. So what's your take on that? Do you agree with that?
I mean, you see, we're a very politically oriented people. Everything about us is somehow politically engineered. So you permit me to also say that to an extent, these cultural celebrations we have year in, year out are mostly governor and all of that. So it has always been politics. So bearing that in mind, you cannot take away the political theatrics from these cultural festivals we do. Unfortunately, we're making it a habit. And I remember I saw a post from a Twitter user, an ex-user, who was saying something about the Pusdung is an APC event, and then the Puskat is a PDP event, and all of that. And of course, it is not far-fetched from the fact that we have political gladiators from these regions where these cultural festivals happen. So when, for instance, if I'm in Gas and we're organizing a cultural festival, of course we'll be inviting political gladiators of the Angas nation. And by the time you bring them in, you can't take away politics from politicians. They will definitely want to find a way of selling themselves or politicizing the whole process in the process. And then there's also the issue about money. So they say he who pays the piper dictates the tune. So when you call them, of course you have to allow them the liberty to express themselves. And when they express themselves, they do that politically. They try to sell themselves, they try to sell their political leanings, and thereby sort of reducing the legitimacy of such cultural celebrations, as it were. But regardless, I don't think it is wholly political, because of course there are the organizers are always mindful. It is just that sometimes these things get out of hand. And please permit me to say this, but for the Angas people, I think it is becoming a dangerous one. The last Pusdum, I remember the governor sent a representative, the Secretary of State government. He was there, and of course in every situation he observed protocol. And when this rep of the governor finished speaking, ordinarily he should speak last. After he spoke, some persons from Plateau Central were also given opportunities to speak after the governor spoke. And in fact, one of the persons, a politician, was saying he is happy that they breached the protocol to allow them talk and all of that. In fact, he was making some passing remarks
because they know
insulting the governor. He's not going to stay there for a while. In their minds at the time, they thought the Supreme Court was going to remove the governor from office. So, and then this year, we saw the same thing play out. When the governor sat down, some persons still came in and they were cheered by the audience, and you begin to wonder, why are you making this a norm? This shouldn't happen again. And the problem with that is, you might have a situation where the next time you invite this governor for this event, he's not going to show up. He's not going to send a rep. And you're still going to have a problem, because people will have something to say. He didn't, he doesn't like us, and that's why he didn't come, and all. So there's a dangerous precedent this is setting, and for some of us who are really concerned, and we hope that it doesn't continue.
So if that's the case, Simon, what do you think can be done if that's the case? Because since this is what this our cultural festival is evolving to.
I think there are so many things to be done. As he has observed, these things doesn't only happen it happens with, but it's just that the larger on is taking a new turn. Like you see it. So I think one of the things that the organizers of this cultural festival should be mindful is how nobody is saying you should not come, and of course politicians, they have said politicians have contribute money to the success of this day. You understand? So definitely the supporters will want to be overzealous, like want to, but there should be limits to how this political cultural day should be politicized. There should be limits. Like there should be clear guidelines. These things happen because organizers don't give clear guidelines to visitors, maybe to guests that, especially those that are going to climb guidelines to what and what. If you are not, if you, as except from the governor, except from the governor, if you come before so time, once you is even is this one is not even something that we should be discussing, because in every setting, the once the person, the highest guest in rank comes in sitting, any other person that is coming, you will not give such any attention to that person
Or noise.
or you understand. So we should, this is not something that we should be, people knows this, maybe people just want to be deliberate about how they want to behave. People know these are things that people know. So 1, 2, after observing this thing, organizers should also give guidelines, what I've said now, and then the organizer should make sure that people strictly obey these guidelines. You can give guidelines like, on the day of this cultural day, no political banners, no political statement. It is a cultural day, of course. It's a culture. If you even listen to some of these speeches people give on the podium, there's no, the speech doesn't carry any cultural tone. You see people making, everything they say is politics. How much I've left, how much is coming. These are not, does that look like cultural day?
Yeah.
It doesn't advance the culture. These are cultural days that you should be telling us how cultures have evolved, how people should make sure that they keep to their culture. But people comes onto the podium and talks about politics, people comes and talk about how much they've given, and the people, funny enough, the people share these things, they love it. People come to the podium and say, I've given 10 million, I've given 5 million, people will clap, and you that you want to give 500,000, they even laugh at you because they see you as you are not giving a hand. So it is not, people are making it seem like it's about the highest bidder, how much you are coming to give. Yeah, so it is a cultural day, it's a cultural day for kind of like,
when he was speaking, he talked about he who pays the piper dictated to you.
Yeah.
So you're talking about the organizers, which is a very fantastic point you raise. There should be a guideline to some of these modalities and how this protocol should be followed. But however, since the politicians are the one funding the events, that will be a difficult thing to do. So is there a way that, that you think, should they think alternatively on how to raise money for some of this festival, or how can we go about
raising money for this festival? You cannot take out the importance of politicians to contribute, because they are also people from that origin, so they will like to give, but the organizer should not organize the program around some people, because it seems the organizer, there are some people that are bigger than protocols, that are bigger than rules, and the organizer deliberately wants to shy away from their responsibility. If this year you attend my program and you breach protocol, I'm not going to allow that next year. In fact, I'm going to tell you, we are going to communicate. By the time I'm sending you an invite, I'm going to tell you that this year we have noticed, last year rather, we have noticed something like we don't want it to occur again. So we are going, even before you come, we are going to send. This thing happened because once people give money, you do not send guidelines on how they conduct themselves on that day. So they believe that it's all good. Anyhow, they can just behave. So guidelines should be taken, and there should be penalties. There can be penalties. Nobody is bigger than penalties. If you are coming to an occasion, there should be rules, and if you breach the rule, there should be penalties for it. The fact that you gave money doesn't mean, if you do not give, other people will give. If you do not give, and if the money you are looking for is not enough to do what you want to do, we'll work on our budget. We'll do what we want to do.
Definitely, because this happens with both sides of the divide.
Yeah, yes.
And if for instance, if PDP, David Wale is a PDP dominated or APC dominated, and
it tends to the politicization tends to go to this other side. This time, when it is for the APC, it goes to them. So this thing we need to curtail it, because we are beginning to set some precedent that it will not augur well.
Now, like in the case of Plateau, I think a lot of people are raising issues right now. I think even the last one one of the last ones that was done, which is the Nzembiro Mato, I heard the Ms. Royal Majesty the Bongo was suggesting to the governor that Plateau need to have a carnival, like something central where all the tribes, the body should, and I think the governor buy into that. And I noticed like we don't have anything like that, or perhaps we have, but it's not really that loud.
Yeah.
So, do you think that would be of great benefit to the people of Plateau?
Sure, I also buy into that idea. In fact, I will
Because I know
suggest
the Calabar, I think
Calabar
Festival,
I will
Carnival, yes, right?
I think I will even suggest that the governor has inaugurated Christmas Carol Committee. I will even suggest that should be one of their terms of reference. So that it should be an activity that leads to the build-up of Christmas. Because what the individual cultural day is being done by each
Yes,
and
yes.
they purposely make it like that to end before the rainy season, because people will go too far.
Exactly.
So after the rainy season, after the farming season, after harvest, we
Exactly.
can have a day, maybe December, maybe
Yeah.
December 1st or December 2nd. They will just pick a day that all the tribes is going to be like, it's going to be colorful. We are going to have publicity. Like, it's not like I feel that our cultural day is still, they are still calling. Like, they are still calling. You hardly see it trend on radio, traditional media. These are events that should put Plateau State on the map. These are events that should tell people that Plateau State, we have a lot of tribes, we have a lot of languages. People should not sit down from their comfort zone and just tag us as northerners, or
Exactly.
when you tell somebody that you are from Plateau State, tells you are Hausa. So if we tell our story, if we showcase our story, it will help people to understand that, oh, so these people are location geographically they are in northern Nigeria, but the fact that they are northern doesn't mean that they are Hausas.
And I think that will also promote, we will benefit the local economy.
Sure.
And of course, we want to attract tourists.
Yeah.
Because, Plateau State is known to be a land of peace, a home of peace and tourism. I think that's one way to showcase the tourist
Attractions,
aspects of Plateau, which is very important for us as a whole. So I think going forward, that recommendation is fantastic.
It's very, very fantastic. It's very good. It's going to do us a lot.
What do you think?
Well, I mean, it falls in line with the agenda of our tourism idea, selling Plateau out to the world. But then, the problem with, like I said, we're a very politically inclined society. So, back to the recommendations, ensure that there are clear guidelines. You remove these from the hands of politicians. Even if you're putting in a committee to do a cultural, Plateau cultural carnival or something like that, you make sure those who are part of the committee organizing are not politicians who are aligned to a particular political class or political idea. So, because that's why
Let it be something independent.
yes, it should be
experts,
based on cultural, like this thing we discuss about postdoon, postcards, and the wrong, tarok.
Yeah.
By the time you go and look at the committees organizing them, you will see that they are politicians from the business. So these politicians, if they're APC politicians, certainly they want to tilt towards their friends in the APC. If it's PDP, they will tilt to their friends in the PDP. So that's a problem. So until we're able to ensure that cultural men or traditional men are given the responsibility of organizing these cultural festivals or celebrations, then we're still going to be coming to the same problem. So if for instance, Governor Mutfwan says, oh, let us do a Plateau cultural thing, and then he sets up a committee, he will bring his own people from the PDP stock. And then maybe those from the APC now will decide to maybe not attend or have a way of spoiling it. So by the time we're able to remove political influence from traditional actions or festivals, where we'll get somewhere, and that tourism potential would give us more at the end of the day. I mean, it's a fantastic idea.
And another thing is that how
carried along theoretically. The Plateau State Youth Council, of course, is always involved. They bring in your leaders at the local government level, tell them, okay, you come and represent youth groups. But of course, there is nothing with regards to mobilization or funding for you. It's just, let's just get them involved. Let it not be that we're doing this on our own and stuff like that. But then, what's most important is, without the youths, these things would not happen. The cultural days and the festivals and celebrations would not happen. They would not be successful because the people, that agility and vibrancy that is required, the energy, comes from the young people. So if you don't carry them along, certainly you know that you're going to lose touch with reality, because you just have a bunch of old men coming, do whatever they want to do and going home.
Let's look at this in a broader perspective. Do you think the African cultural festival is losing grounds or gaining grounds?
Well, if you ask me, I mean, I would answer you from a global perspective. You see, the cost of civilization requires you to relinquish some items of your cultural identity.
Okay.
Yeah, it does. If you've looked at civilizations over the years, you discover, or you think Americans just started speaking English, you think that's how they were, you think that's their culture. It wasn't. English is the language of the Brits, right? Yeah. And before English became the language of the Brits, there was a language for those indigenous communities making up the United Kingdom today. So
it's true. I think the English for the Brits, I think it's around the 3rd or 5th century or so that they began to speak English. But before that time, they had the indigenous language.
Of course they did. Every society had. So it's just a thing that for you to grow into civilization, there are certain things that must go. But in our own case, we're still trying. We're still trying to hold on to these things as little as we can, while still trying to align with the global West. You know. So as far as I'm concerned, we're trying our best, but sir, to be honest, we would have to lose these things if at all we want to actually align with the world. Basically, we want to learn from the world and be like the world. Some of these things will have to go, and that is why even in Nigeria today, we say things. There's a part of our law that says when a law or a cultural item or scrap is repugnant to natural justice, good conscience and equity, it's going to be expunged. So I'll give you an example. Some years back, there was a case in the court in the East, and they say, oh, in the East it is culturally accepted that women don't inherit property from their fathers. Now, that's a cultural thing, and whether we like it or not is fact. But it got to a point where a Nigerian court said, look, this thing is repugnant to natural justice, so to hell with the culture, we're going to adopt a new style. Women must inherit property from their parents. You know? So these are that's just an example that's one example. There are other areas where these things, you have to expunge some things just so you can align.
I think winding down on this, I'll ask you, Simon, what do you think we can do to ensure that we uphold this cultural festival for the future generation? Because
one of the things,
we're losing our identity
and our authenticity.
And our authenticity, exactly.
To preserve our culture, right, we have to continue celebrating these days. Cultural day is very important, and I can see that so many schools adopt a day set aside to celebrate culture. These are things that can be done to preserve our culture. You can also make sure that the cultural items are deliberately streamlined into our policies. Cultures are deliberately streamlined into our policies. These other things can preserve our culture. Artifacts should be kept.
Reinforcement of language.
So you keep this artifact. That's why we have people now advocating for wildlife preservation, because there are some of these wildlife animals that are going into extinct, and if they go into extinct, there are some culture that will lose their identity, because there are some sounds that you get from some of these wildlife skin, their bones and all those things. wildlife go extinct now, invariably those other culture, those other tribes, we also lose some of their identity, some of their artifacts.
Exactly.
So
I think there's quite a lot that can be done to ensure we preserve our culture for the future generation. And one thing that is very important, I think they have history is taken out of our curriculum. I think that needs to be revised.
I think
there is history. We just don't teach the history of Nigeria. The unfortunate part of it. We don't teach these young people who we are, what makes up this country, how many languages and tribes we have, the importance of each one within the larger body. And we don't teach that. We teach them the history of the Ashantis, the history of the Benin Republic. We just give them general knowledge of history without teaching them history about where they come from.
Exactly.
And that's I think that's a problem. But going forward, these things may change. We hope they do change.
Yes, we hope so.